If you are a business owner or entrepreneur who has been pouring time and energy into creating long-form content, whether a podcast or YouTube videos, or just tons and tons of social media, and all of that had the goal of growing your business, but you really haven't gotten the audience growth, revenue, and personal brand growth that you set out for in the beginning, this video is for you. Today, I'm going to reveal the 5 key components that every successful content-driven business needs in order to be at a place where you create content, that content grows your audience, and that audience buys your stuff and becomes your paying customers. When you have what I call a content-driven business, you create content all the time, that content grows your audience, and that audience wants to buy your stuff. So you have lower marketing costs and easier sales. And the best part about getting this right is that it actually is going to mean less work on content than you're currently doing, because you're going to be able to create one episode of your show or one video, and that one piece of long-form content is going to cascade into a flywheel that drives the next step in the sales, marketing, and fulfillment process. So if you've been feeling like you're on a content hamster wheel, constantly cranking out episodes, but really not seeing any increase in audience growth or authority or revenue or sales, what I'm going to outline will show you what you might be missing within your system and where you should focus your energy to get the whole thing unstuck. This is Grow the Show, the podcast that helps business owners grow their business and their brands by growing their podcast. My name is Kevin. I've used this exact approach to generate more than $3 million in revenue for my business in just 3 years, and I've helped more than 400 other entrepreneurs do the same thing. And what I found in working with these entrepreneurs is that the most successful ones don't just create content. They don't just make episodes willy-nilly. They build a system that fuels their entire business and their marketing and sales process. They understand that long-form content is only one piece of the puzzle, and short-form content is also just one piece of the puzzle, and that there's 3 other pieces as well. And without all 5, your efforts fall short. So whether you're just starting out creating content for your business or you're already producing it on a regular basis, what I'm going to share will give you the clarity and direction you need to make every piece of content count. So let's dig into the 5 key components of a content-driven business. You see, I used to think that just publishing a podcast, putting out episodes week after week was enough if you wanted to be successful with content marketing. But over the years, I've seen firsthand the massive drawbacks that podcasts have and how relying 100% on a podcast prevents a business owner from reaching their full potential of audience growth, lower marketing costs, and more easy sales. And time again, when I come across an entrepreneur who has really cracked the code, they publish great content, their audience is growing like crazy, their audience is buying their stuff, they have all 5 components of the content-driven business working at least proficiently. They're not perfect at all of them, but they've got them going. So what are the 5 pieces? Let's start with Component 1, long-form content, AKA podcast episodes or YouTube videos. And we're going to start here for a couple of reasons. If you have an expertise-based business like coaching or consulting or an agency or some sort of expert service business, in my opinion, there really is no better lead nurturing mechanism than long-form content. When people consume your videos or your audio episodes for 10 to 60 minutes, at the end, they're ready to buy. And when you get this right, your long-form episodes become the engine to the content flywheel. They become the thing that you focus on creating week after week, and then the rest of the system flows from that, and your team does the other stuff via leverage and repurposing. We'll get there in a minute. But like I said, the first one is long-form content, and we need the other 4 because there are shortfalls. There are pitfalls to long-form content. And by the way, for the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to long-form content as a podcast. Whether you believe it's audio, video, I don't really care. I'm going to use that word. It's easier. So here's why relying on a podcast alone is tough. So if your podcast is on YouTube, you have to get really good at the YouTube algorithm. You got to understand titles and thumbnails and keyword research and click-through rates. You also have to make sure that your video setup and your editing is at least passably good, which, trust me, gets expensive really fast. And you don't have to go as crazy as I do with the setup, but it is an important ingredient. It's got to look good. So all of those factors are going to be on top of making great long-form episodes, and it's going to keep you from getting long-form off the ground all by itself. And if you're someone whose podcast is audio only, it's even harder to grow your audience. It is very hard. It is audience growth on expert mode. I've devoted my life over the past 5 years to podcast growth. And what I know now is it's the hardest one. So what's also true about podcasts and long form is that it can be tough to get people to buy your stuff right then and there while they're consuming your long form content. And that's because they're doing something else. They're working out, they're driving, whatever. They're not gonna pull over and buy your course right then and there. So long form content is really good at lead nurturing and authority building, but it is not good at getting people to take action right now or lead generation, getting new people to discover that you exist. So how can you make things easier and how can you make up for those shortfalls? Well, you start by introducing component 2, short form social media. There is no better way to generate leads, AKA get your ideal avatar to discover that you exist, than social media. It's where everybody's attention is right now. So to really get the most out of your long form content, you wanna also show up regularly on social media and post native short form social media content. That's gonna give us a couple things that we don't get from long form content alone. The first thing is retargeting, AKA reminding people who already know that your show exists and that you exist, that you do. You have to do this. You can't rely 100% on them to subscribe or follow the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or even YouTube. It's just not reliable. You got to say, hey, everybody, I have this new thing available. But in addition to that, short form social gives you discoverability, fast discoverability. Case in point, I recently had a client launch a podcast with her sister about their favorite romance fantasy book series. They started making short form videos right away about these books. And within 3 months, their audience had grown to over 100,000 and they had gotten more than 1 million downloads of their podcast. That was largely driven by short form social media. And if you want to learn more about that, I did an episode with her. Her name is Nicole Holloman. You can get that episode on the Grow the Show feed. Now, I know what you're thinking, Kevin, I don't want to have to dance on TikTok. Kevin, I'm not a social media person. I hate social media. I'm not good at social media. Can I just hire my niece or a VA in the Philippines to do all the social media for me? Stop, 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 stop. You don't have to make dancing videos, and you hate social media because you're bad at it. It makes you feel dumb, and you don't like to feel dumb. But it only makes you feel dumb because you don't know yet how to use it. I promise you though, once you learn how it works and how to create content that gets reach, you're not gonna hate it anymore. In fact, you're gonna have to install blockers on your phone because you're on it too much. Everybody in your life is suddenly gonna think that you're one of those good at social media people, and you're gonna laugh at the idea that you wanted to pass off the single greatest source of fast wealth of all time to a VA in the Philippines. I do have good news though. First off, you only need one social media platform to get this right. You don't have to be on all platforms at once, and it's better to master one before you worry about all of them. And if you don't already have momentum on any platforms, just pick one, your favorite one, and go all in on it until you have at least 10,000 followers. I call that the 1 to 10,000 rule. I generally these days recommend for business owners Instagram or LinkedIn, but TikTok, X, Facebook, Threads, they're all good. Just pick one. You can be on all platforms later once you're making more money and you have more resources and a team to put behind your social media presence. Okay, so in summary, short form social media is really good at lead generation, getting new people, and lead retargeting, getting people who already know that you exist but kind of forgot to remember that you exist. But it's not good at audience access. What do I mean by that? Well, even if you're world class at social media, you're one of the best in the game, you're lucky to reach 3 to 5% of your audience, of the people who followed you, who opted into seeing your stuff on a regular basis. The social media algorithms are fickle, and what's working on social media, the tactics, changes really fast. That's all true. And when it comes to getting people to buy, getting people to cross over the line and convert them and get them to buy your stuff, it's okay. You can get people to buy your stuff from social media, but that's not for everybody. You can only reach a tiny portion of your audience. And what's also true is the more you ask people to buy on social media, the more you're gonna get punished by the algorithm. So social media also has some shortfalls, which means we're ready for the third component of a content-driven business, and that is your email list. Now, like I said before, your social media audience, you can expect, if you're doing well, to access maybe 1 to 5% of that audience. The standard with an email list is that you're going to be able to access 20%. I usually average 40 to 50%. I've seen people who have 70% open rates. So this means that email gives you the ability to contact your audience fairly on demand, where you will actually reach them. You will send a message and they will see it. That is not the case with long form, and it is extremely fickle with short form unless you're DMing everybody. What's also great about email is that you're able to reach their audience when they are in the best situation situation to take action and buy. People click on stuff in their emails and they buy stuff from their emails, more so than when they're watching a video or when they're scrolling on social media. Email is hands down the thing that brings you the most buyers, and it is simply, in my experience, the best place to get people to buy. Your email list is also gonna serve as retargeting like your social media does, because it reminds people to consume your long form episodes who otherwise wouldn't have noticed that there was a new episode available. So when you add your email list to the equation, now you have a way to generate tons of leads from social media. Your long form content nurtures the crap out of them and gets them ready to buy, and your email list contacts them and invites them to take the next step and buy something now. But wait a minute, hold on a second. What is it that they are actually going to buy? How are you going to make money? Well, that's the fourth component of a content-driven business, your core offer. And core is the key word. This is where you want to have a flagship thing that is your default thing that you sell. For business owners or CEOs who are running companies that already have multiple offers, I'm not saying you should can your other offers, right? It's good to have multiple offers, but what I am saying is that you want to have one flagship thing that you send your audience to as like the core thing. And this is even more important for you solopreneurs out there who currently offer 6 different courses, a membership with 3 tiers of pricing, 3 different tiers of one-on-one coaching, an app subscription. It's just too much. Your audience is confused. So instead of trying to sell 10 different things, why don't we get really good at selling one thing first? That core offer is going to be the thing that generates the most ROI and pays the bills. Like I said, it's the flagship, it's the foundation, it is the baseline, it is the thing that you sell directly to your listener base. That can be a done for you service, a digital course or a product, coaching or consulting, a high ticket program, a membership, a Patreon, a mastermind, physical products, whatever it is. You should pick one thing that is your core offer. This is the main thing. Now, I know you might be a business owner who already has a core offer and you say, duh, of course, I need to have an offer to sell. I started my show, I started creating content to sell that thing. But I also know that some of you don't have a core offer. Some of you have podcasts that are impressively large, but all of your revenue comes from advertisers. You have nothing to sell your audience. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I know for a fact advertisers can be fickle. It's feast or famine. And it is also not fun when sponsors are your boss. And if that's you, consider creating and launching a core offer. I believe you're gonna make more money and your business is gonna be more stable. Now, if you're a solopreneur who does not have a flagship offer or program, that one thing where you're said, this is how I can help you, where your audience can choose yes or no, I would stop worrying about audience growth and get that settled. Clean up what you're offering, make it one thing, and then worry about getting more people to discover that one thing. So your core offer is the fourth component of the content-driven business. That is what gives you money, the cheddar cheese, monetization, right? Content without a core offer is a fun side project, in my opinion. Content with an offer behind it is a business. Now, when you've got your social media generating leads, your long form content is nurturing leads and getting them to know, like, and trust you, and an email list is getting those leads to do something virtually on command, that core offer gives you the thing to sell to that audience, hopefully at scale. But there's one problem with the core offer. There's one thing that it's missing, and that is this: it ain't gonna sell itself. That's why we need the fifth and final component of the content-driven business, and that is the sales funnel. Now, there's a lot of discourse online about sales funnel and tons of gurus trying to sell you on which type of funnel you should do, AKA whether you should buy their course on their type of sales funnel. So which one is the best? Here's the answer: the one that you use and the one that you understand. A sales funnel is a designed step-by-step process that takes somebody from lead, they find out that you exist, to customer. They have paid you and they're happy that they did it. Actually, a funnel doesn't make them happy, but that's your job. But anyway, and it's a funnel because when somebody is in the sales funnel, there's only one next step for them to take at a time. There's many different types of sales funnels. There's application funnels where they apply and then book a call. There's discovery call funnels where it's like, book a call and we'll talk about your problems. There's a sales page funnel where it's just, here's the sales page. You wanna buy the thing? There's webinar funnels that take them through a presentation, either recorded or live. And there's countless more. And I feel like every week on Instagram, I get an ad for a new type of funnel that says, don't do those other types of funnels. They don't work anymore, right? So there's tons of ways that you can do it. Whichever type of funnel you choose, there's a couple reasons why you need at least one dedicated sales funnel to sell your core offer. And this is the biggest reason. If you try to do all of your selling from your content, from social media, from long form, even email, and you want them to buy right then and there, your content is not going to perform well. You will be punished by all the algorithms because you're asking people to buy all the time and they don't like that. There's a big time creator who's really smart. Some people like, some people hate. I'm not gonna tell you who it is, but that person says all the time, you want to give in public and sell in private. You also need a way for prospects to have their questions answered. Every person that is considering buying your stuff has individual questions and objections, and they are not gonna buy until those things are handled. So you gotta have some way for their questions to be answered and their objections to be handled. Whether that is an hour-long discovery call, a live webinar, or just a sales page that has an FAQ, you need something that's gonna take your individual one-by-one prospects by the hand and walk them over the line to buy and become a customer. You don't want your long form, your short form, and your email list to try to play that role because, like I said before, it's gonna sabotage the success of and growth of those platforms. But once you have a sales funnel live and converting, that is when we really get the magic. And that's because all 5 of the components are now working together. You've got your long form episodes nurturing the crap out of people. You've got your short form getting you new leads. You've got your email list converting them and sending them into the sales funnel. You've got your sales funnel that takes them along the process of buying, at the end of which they buy your core offer, which is something that is repeatable and scalable. And once you have those things in motion, that's where the good stuff starts. Now note that all of those things have to be linked together, and we do that via CTAs or calls to action. This is where you tell the person to go do something else, like subscribe to the newsletter or enter the sales funnel or something like that. And so you want to make it so that each part of the content-driven business CTAs to the other part. So your podcast episode CTAs your newsletter and gets them on your email list. Your social media content CTAs the long form content, right? It gets them to watch the long thing. Your newsletter CTAs your podcast and your social, so people go to the other things. And all 3 of those things get people to enter your sales funnel, so people buy your core offer and you make money. Now, here's the beautiful thing about your long form content. It creates the fuel for this whole system to work. Because I know this is a lot of stuff, right? What do you mean I got to set up all these things? Once you have them set up, you get what's called a flywheel. And a flywheel is a system that once running fuels itself, right? So the content-driven business flywheel runs like this. Number 1, you as the CEO, as the creator, once a week, create long-form content that solves problems, answers questions, shares realizations that you had, and tells stories. I remember that as PQRS. That's what you're doing in your content. My content today is solving a problem for you and answering questions. And I have shared a couple stories, right? I haven't shared any realizations yet. Maybe I'll do that next week. So that's what your long form content does. You then use the insights from that long form episode to create short form content for social media. Think about it. This video that you've watched so far, I can probably make about 20 different pieces of social media content from all the stuff I've shared with you right now. So I make this video once, I take all the insights and I make short form content throughout the week. Then in the middle of your short form and your long form content, you CTA people to join your email list like this. If you're somebody who has struggled to grow your podcast and it's not doing what you want it to do, check out my free email course. It's called 12 Days of Podcast Growth. You can go to 12daysofpodcastgrowth.com. It's a 12-day course that's gonna walk you through exactly what to do to get your podcast growing so that it brings you more leads and sales. The link is in the show notes. Once again, that's 12daysofpodcastgrowth.com. So then when people are consuming your content, they go to 12daysofpodcastgrowth.com. They give me their email. They're on my email list. Some of them will enter my sales funnel, AKA book a call with me to understand what it would look like for me to come into their business and build this out alongside them. That's my sales funnel. They then buy my core offer, which is the Grow the Show Accelerator. And here's the key. As I am fulfilling that offer, as I am working with my clients, I solve problems, I answer questions, I have realizations, and I encounter stories. And all of those things I turn into long form content, and the cycle continues. Now, I know this was a lot, but my goal today with this episode was to show you the 5 components of a successful content-driven business. And my hope is that in seeing those, you can identify which components are missing or are the weak link in the chain. Now, if you want my help with that, click the link in the description and I can walk you through what it's missing and how you can fix it. Or just make sure you are subscribed to Grow the Show, because every future episode of this show is gonna be here to help you with those 5 things so that ultimately you can have a growing, thriving, content-driven business.